Good morning, church.
Good morning.
This is our third time here at Wellspring, so thank you for inviting us again and for letting me speak. I'm not like a best speaker, but it gives me a chance to practice the preaching. So let's have a word of prayer before we begin. Father in heaven, we just thank you again for the Sabbath day, for this church family. What a wonderful group here, loving, close church, and with a great mission, Father. And Lord, we ask that you would help us to hear and listen to your message today. And somehow you're going to use me today with your Holy Spirit, with your power. And we expect a miracle today. And so we ask now that you bless us in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen. All right. So the sermon today is from paradise to panic. How many of you guys like to go to Hawaii or have been to Hawaii before? All right. So when I put the slide up there, when I preached this last time at a different church, people just smiled when they saw the picture of Hawaii. They're like, wow, I remember those days. Because it brings a lot of good memories, right? I don't know if you heard about this, but last month, about 4 weeks ago, people in Hawaii, the residents and vacationers, got this message in their smartphone or their cell phone. Emergency alert. It says, ballistic missile threat inbound to Hawaii. Seek immediate shelter. This is not a drill. Can you imagine that? It actually happened in Japan as well, like the following week. I just love how it says, this is not a drill. As you know, there was one guy who was working in the emergency agency, and they were doing a shift change, and he accidentally pressed a button, and it basically sent all this text to everyone that says, this is that basically, we have a missile incoming. Can you imagine what people had to go through? So it took about 38 minutes for people to figure out, okay, this is not real, and they sent out another message. But Hawaii became an island of paradise to an island of panic. And I want to just share a few stories that happened. Let's just show how people were experiencing this time of panic. It says here, Jocelyn had just woken up in her Maui hotel Saturday when she was hurried into her hotel's basement to take shelter from an incoming ballistic missile. She was thinking, are we going to die? Is it really a missile coming our way? Jocelyn and hundreds of our hotel guests were herded like cows into the basement of Maui hotel by staff. People were crying and people were scared. For 20 minutes, they didn't find out that it was just a false alarm. But when she interviewed with CNN, this is what she said. Hawaii is beautiful, but it's not where I want to die. Here's another story. Adnan was currently visiting Waikiki with his family. Some of you guys have been to Waikiki. They were there to celebrate their father's 40th anniversary. That morning, we were actually getting ready to the beach. I had my 2-month-old. My family was together when we got the alarm, this text. We were actually terrified. We were staying on the 36th floor of the Hyatt Regency in Waikiki. The hotel told us to stay indoors. My wife was in tears. And we were sitting in the bathtub with my family saying our prayers. I mean, can you imagine just the panic that people were going through? I wanted to show you a couple of texts that kind of spoke to me to understand like what panic was for the people. So when they found out that when they got the text, some people tried to find shelters. But then you realize, like, where is a shelter? And will I get there in time? And some people try to contact their loved ones. So here's some of the texts that I saw from CNN. It just tells you, like, the desperation and panic that people had. It says, there's an alert system. Where are you going? The other responds, we're downstairs bathroom. Is Blaine there? And then they're doing, like, their farewell. We love you. What's happening? We love you too. I mean, isn't that scary? Here's another one. We are under an immediate missile threat. We are seeking shelter in the basement of the hospital. I'm really scared. I love you guys, and I'll keep you updated the best I can. 4 minutes left if they launched it. Please pray we get inside in time. And then the last text wasn't delivered. We're probably in the shelter. We're in the shelter, and I'm shaking. Can you imagine what people were going through at that time? There's another time of panic that I'd like to share with you in, in Genesis. And during the flood, there was also a time of panic that I'd like just to share with you. So this is from the book Patriarchs and Prophets, page 99. How many years did Noah preach? 120 years, right? So 120 years, now they're inside the boat. All the animals are inside. But it took about another week until the rain started coming. So they were inside, and people were still criticizing and laughing because they were inside the boat. Where's the rain? On the 8th day, this is what happened. 8th day comes, dark clouds overspread the heavens. There followed the muttering of thunder and the flash of lightning. Soon large drops of rain began to fall. The world had never witnessed anything like this, and the hearts of men were struck with fear. They were panicking. Second paragraph, the fountains of the great deep were broken up, and the windows of heaven were open. Water appeared to come from the clouds in mighty cataracts. Rivers broke from their boundaries and overflowed the valleys. Jets of water burst from the earth in undescribable force, throwing massive rocks hundreds of feet up into the air. The terror of man and beasts was beyond description. I just want to share one more. So in this time of panic, they got really desperate, and this is what people were doing. Some clung to the ark, so that when the door was closed, people were hanging onto the ark, like somehow they could still be saved. Some clung to the ark until they were borne away by the surging waters. And here's a really sad part. Like if you have kids, some of the people bound their children and themselves upon these animals, knowing that they would climb the highest points to escape the rising waters. I mean, can you imagine like your kid, like you're trying to strap your kid to an animal because you know that they're going to get up to the highest part of the mountain? I mean, that's really desperate. It's really sad to hear what was happening there. So these stories tell us a couple of things. The Hawaii missile attack, the false missile attack, and this panic that happened in Genesis. During a time of panic, we think of a couple of things in life. One, we think about God. Like, God, save me right now. I need you right now. Protect me right now. And the second thing is we think about our family. Like, where's my kids? Where are they? I want to contact them. I love them. I just want to make sure that I love them. And today I want to talk about the second part. Today I want to talk about how to prepare our homes for heaven. And the theme I know is love. And because we love our families, we want to prepare our homes for heaven. Because I don't want to have any doubts or regrets that I didn't do my part. So today I want to talk about how to prepare our homes for heaven. Is this a good topic? Yes. All right. And I love that you guys have the time for the children here because we know we're investing in our children. So we're going to begin our study. So we have a blueprint in the book of Genesis on how to prepare our homes for heaven. And we're going to read again. Thank you. Who's that person who read? Is it Austin? Austin, thank you for reading that. We'll read it again. Hebrews 11, verse 7. By faith, Noah, being divinely warned of things not yet seen, moved with godly fear, prepared an ark for the saving of his household. So we're going to begin our study in Genesis chapter 6. So we open our Bibles now. I didn't have the verses up there because I'd like for you guys to open your Bibles. Genesis chapter 6, verses 5 to 8. Let's read Genesis chapter 6, 5 to 8. Then the Lord saw that the wickedness of man was great in the earth, and that every intent of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually. Verse 6. And the Lord was sorry that he had made man on the earth, and he was grieved in his heart. So the Lord said, I will destroy man whom I have created from the face of the earth, both man and beast, creeping things and birds of the air, for I am sorry that I have made man. It's a really sad thing. I think this is like, for me, it's hard for me to understand that God was sorry that he had made us. Just to think about that. Like, he made us in his image, and yet he felt sorry. And we know that God is mighty, God is merciful and loving, but he found no other way except to destroy man. It's kind of a sobering thought, that sin leads to death. And we had a lot of death at that time. But there's hope. Verse 8 says what? But Noah found grace in the eyes of the Lord. Noah found grace in the eyes of the Lord. So let's talk about that. Let's go to verse 9. So what does that mean? Noah found grace in the eyes of the Lord. What was the first thing that Noah did to prepare his home for heaven? It's really simple. This is the genealogy of Noah, verse 9. Noah was a just man, perfect in his generation. He what? He walked with God. And, all right, we know that in order to become good parents we have to know God first, right? We have to know Christ first. And Noah, this is the first step that Noah did. He walked with God. Now, it sounds really simple, right? But really profound that he walked with God. And the reason for that is because God's going to destroy everything in the world, but then he was walking with God in this time. That God says, I have to destroy everything except for Noah, and he did something that he just walked with God. There was a guy in the Bible who also walked with God, and he was taken away. Who was that guy? Enoch, okay? Well, Enoch is Noah's great-grandfather, all right? So imagine this. You have a great-grandfather who was walking with God, and then now he's in heaven. He was taken up to heaven. Can you imagine, like, the legacy of that being passed on to your generation? Like, how did he walk with God? What do you mean that our great-grandfather is gone? Well, there was something there that maybe they had something where family worship, or they had something that it was passed on to the generation, and maybe that's why Noah walked with God. People notice when you walk with God, right? Like, we're at church right now, and we know that we're supposed to know Christ, and we love God here. But it's different when you see someone outside of church, and you know that they have been walking with God. And maybe that's what people see you when you're, whatever you're doing, supermarket store. There's a lady at 24-Hour Fitness. I go to a 24-Hour Fitness gym. At Tuesday morning at 5:45, we do an insanity class, and it's really insane. It's an insanity class. 5:45. There's a lady there in her mid-50s that I start to notice that she's really encouraging, and she's really amazing. She puts the mats away. She has a smile on her face. She says, God bless you. And I'm thinking, you know what? I bet you she's been walking with God. And somehow I got connected with her on Facebook, and guess what? She was walking with God. You could tell when people are walking with God. And I just mentioned that it's amazing that he was walking with God during this time. And I do want to mention this. I think we mentioned this a couple of times in our Sabbath school. He was a guy who says, as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. There's a passage in Education, page 57, that I think exemplifies who Noah is. It says this: the greatest want of the world is the want of man. Men who will not be bought or sold, men who in their inmost souls are true and honest. Men who don't fear to call sin by its right name, men whose conscience is as true to duty as the needle to the pole. Men who will stand for the right, though the heavens fall. I think that's who Noah is. So let's talk about what does it mean by walking with God, just briefly. First, we know that he listened to God. Later on, we'll talk about it in the later passages of Genesis chapter 6, that he listened to God's instruction on how to build this ark, okay? He stood firm. Did you know that Noah had the longest evangelistic campaign in the planet Earth? 120 years. So, Taj Paklip does what, 3 weeks? He had 120 years. And for today's measurement, that's probably not the most successful evangelistic campaign. He won himself and 8 people, right? So 7 plus 1 does 8. 8 out of millions of people. So, but he stood firm. Sometimes the culture tells us to do something else, but we need to stand firm as well. He called sin by its right name, and he also trusted God. When they were in the boat, so during the flood, after the 40 days and 40 nights, and the piece of wood was being, thrown up and down, hundreds of feet in the air, some of his family members were actually getting scared, and they thought that they were going to die. But Noah trusted in God, and he basically said, no, just trust in God. And so sometimes we have family members that are wavering, maybe in the faith. Reassure them to trust in God. Let's go to the next passage. Oh, okay, I want to do mention this. So, because of Noah's faithfulness and integrity, God saved all the members of his family with him. What an encouragement to parental fidelity. Isn't that amazing? I think that's an amazing statement because he walked with God with faithfulness and integrity. God saved all the members of his family. Now, we know that our family members will still have to accept Christ, right? They still have to make their own choice. Nevertheless, he did his part, and God saved all his family. So the next thing is Genesis chapter 6, 13 to 18. So let's go to Genesis chapter 6. What was the second thing that Noah did to prepare his home for heaven? Are you there? Chapter 6, 13 to 18. Well, actually, we'll start reading in verse 14. Make yourself an ark of gopher wood. Make rooms in the ark and cover it inside and out with pitch. And this is how you shall make it. The length of the ark shall be 300 cubits, its width 50 cubits, its height 30 cubits. Cubits, by the way, is like 18 to 20 inches, so about a foot and a half, okay? Verse 16, you shall make a window for the ark, and you shall finish it to a cubit from above, and set the door of the ark in its side. You shall make it with lower, second, and third deck. So there's 3 stories to this ark. And behold, I myself am bringing flood waters on the earth to destroy from under heaven all flesh in which is the breath of life. Everything that is on the earth shall die, but I will establish my covenant with you, and you shall go to the ark, you, your sons, your wife, and your sons' wives with you. So what was the second thing that Noah did? He invested in his family. He literally built a wooden home to preserve his family from the flood. I mean, he had to build a home to preserve his family. So the lesson for us, we need to build a home that can preserve our family for heaven. Now, Patriarchs and Prophets also tells us that everything that he had, all the possessions, money, he invested everything in the ark. He invested everything in the ark. Let's talk about the ark. Is it always good to follow God's instruction? Always good, right? And he built this for 120, 100 plus years, right? So a couple of things about the ark. So God was the designer and Noah was the builder. That it was made out of gopher wood or cypress wood. And this is the strongest wood that you could find. It's durable. So first we need to make sure that our home has a good foundation, right? And it was constructed like a hull that it may float upon the water, all right? And here is really a cool thing about the ark, that it's got the specific dimensions. It tells us the height, the width, and the length. Today, scientists tells us that the proportions of the ark, they found that it had carefully balanced the conflicting demands of stability, comfort, and strength. It was made perfect for the family. That they said that if you just tweak it a little bit, it's not as durable. It'll just fall apart. But God said, make it this wide, this long, and so on. And so it was good to follow God's instruction. In fact, I remember when I taught at the academy that somewhere I read that the ships today try to pattern how they built the ships to the ark because it's still the best type of engineering. It says the ark could have handled this type of dimension. It could have handled 100 waves as high as 100 feet up in the air. Can you imagine that? So let's talk about how to invest in our home. Before that, for those who want to just figure out how big this ark is, if you say that a cubit is 20 inches or 18 inches, the ark would have been about 500 feet long. So that is a little bit shorter than the Titanic. You guys are familiar with the Titanic. And about half the size, half the length of the Queen Mary II, which is one of the largest ships in the world. It's a really big thing. It's 3 stories high. So he invested in this boat. And, when we think about investing, when my daughter was born 4 years ago, I had this picture at my workplace. So I could see her in both of my monitors, right? I could see her every day. And, when I had a kid, we think about investing in our family. So today we'll talk a little bit about investing in family. So first we go investing our family in church life. So we come here to church. We bring them to Sabbath school so they can learn about Jesus. They could sing about Jesus, and they could hear the sermon. Some of us try to use our money so they could go to school, Christian education. And some people take it another step, and they do homeschool. But today I want to talk about 2 things that I'm really concerned about. And it's not like I have this all figured out, but I do want to talk about a couple of things. Limit media usage. See that child? That's how they react when you try to pull the iPad away. So I think, because of my experience, I think media is such a big issue today in our family. I think it's really hijacking our children and their thoughts. And when I talk about media, I'm talking about television. I was addicted to television growing up, okay? So I have to admit that. I'm talking about iPads and then iPhones. A lot of you guys have iPhones, and some of the kids are probably like looking at their iPhones while they're listening to me, right? So give me a few minutes here. My wife and I attended a seminar called Media on the Brain. His name is, the presenter is Scott Ritzema, and maybe you guys should invite him over here and, maybe have a couple of churches come and sponsor him. Really good message. I just want to take a few moments to talk about what I took from there. There's a couple of quotes that I wrote down. One of them says, "It's easier to cure a heroin addict than a screen addict." It's easier to cure someone who's a druggie than a screen addict. I mean, how many of you guys check your cell phone like every second? Oh, did I get an email? Did I get a message? And there's also some medical issues today where they think that their legs are buzzing because, the cell phone is there. But in fact, the cell phone isn't there. So all these medical things are happening today. After 2 minutes of watching television, the brain begins to produce alpha waves where someone can be more susceptible to suggestions. Yes. All Hollywood videos most of them are hypnotic. So let me tell you a couple of testimonies. Oh yeah, okay, sure. So my wife and I after we got married, for about 3 to 4 years, we didn't have television. Okay? But then I wanted to watch football, so I bought like a 48-inch flat screen Samsung TV so I could watch football. And then Haley came along in 2014, and I remember holding her, and I was watching the television, and I wanted her not to watch television, so I put her face on the other side, right? But then we had a wall that had a mirror. And I caught her watching television. And I was thinking, you know what? I don't want to get her addicted, so we took out the television, I think a few months later. Then the iPad comes along, and yeah, they can watch some really cool shows. But these devices were made so that it's easy to manage. It's easy for kids to take care of, right? To navigate through. I mean, I found out that she figured out the password to my iPad. And so she was going through YouTube and so on. It changes their behavior when they watch, when they're glued. And when you take it away, they get cranky, they get mad, and they cry. And because of the addiction of that thing, even Steve Jobs, who he founded Apple, he never had an iPad in his home because he knew the dangers of it. Isn't that interesting, right? So I would say limit the media usage. And I think about the older kids, we're all addicted now. And I pray for all of us, I pray for you guys. Video games, it's prevalent. The second thing I want to talk about is family worships. And I want to read something from Mrs. White's counsel, and this is a rebuke to me. And so it's a hard rebuke, but I want to read it anyway. And for those who are doing family worships, praise the Lord. Praise the Lord. It says here in Child Guidance, page 517, if ever there was a time when every house should be a house of prayer, it is now. Infidelity and skepticism prevail, iniquity abounds, corruption flows in the vital currents of the soul, and rebellion against God breaks out in the life. Enslaved by sin, the moral powers are under tyranny of Satan. And yet, in this time of fearful peril, some who profess to be Christians have no family worship. They do not honor God in the home. They do not teach their children to love and fear Him. I don't have all of it together, right? In fact, we've had pretty inconsistent family worships in our home when we had our child. But a couple of months ago, we started on a journey that every day we're going to have family worship. And it's been an amazing journey for us. It's really changed our life. Even Haley comes to us and says, when is it time for family worship? When is it time for family worship? Now, the reason maybe that we don't have family worship is could be that maybe we have it all wrong in how we do it. And Ellen White actually tells us how to do it. And I actually created a manual in my last church of how to do family worships. She says this, and I don't have it up there as a slide. It says, there's no reason why this event, this family worship, it should not be the most interesting and enjoyable exercise of the home life. And God is dishonored when it is made dry and irksome. Let the seasons of family worship be short. What is it? Be short and spirited. The kids are like, amen. Do not let your children or any members of your family dread them because of their tedious or lack of interest. When a long chapter is read and explained and a long prayer is offered, the precious service becomes wearisome, and it is a relief when it is over. So, can you imagine sitting in an hour of family worship for every day? Ellen White says it should be just short and spirited. And so what we do, and what I can do is I can make a copy of this if you're interested, or contact me. There's a couple of things that we should do in family worship that I wrote down in this manual. The do's and don'ts is, let me just read a couple here. Do's is make it a priority. Make it a happy and joyful occasion. Get everyone involved if possible, including the children. The don'ts of family worship, don't make people feel guilty if they don't make it to family worship. Don't make me feel guilty about it, okay? Don't have family worships that last too long. It should be maybe 10 minutes or so, right? Don't give up if you feel frustrated. And I have some samples of how to do family worship. And so what we do is this. We make it really simple as possible because we live busy lives like you guys. And so we have an online site. It says Our Daily Bread. And every day they have a worship. They have a picture that Haley can look at. There's a verse. So we say the verse and Haley repeats it after us. And then we have a little story. And then we have some prayer requests. And then we pray. We're done in 10 minutes. And then we're done. It's not like, oh, And, there's some stories that I could tell about dreadful family worships, but I would rather not. But make it spirited, make it happy, a happy occasion. So for those who are doing family worship today, even doing once a month is better than nothing, right? So start with that. So we started that every day for the last 2 months, and it's been an amazing experience. All right, so we're going to wrap this up. The third thing that Noah did to prepare his home for his home for heaven is that he served with his family. And I see that here in this church. You guys are getting your kids involved. Austin read the scripture. So Noah was a preacher, which meant that his kids were PKs. They were pastor kids, right? And they were there helping out. And it doesn't tell us in the Bible specifically, but the book Patriarchs and Prophets tells us that Enoch and his sons, Methuselah and Lamech, they were involved in building the ark. They were really involved in building. They had just died before the flood came. So this tells me that the kids were involved in building this, right? So when the kids are involved, it takes it to another level. Because a family that prays together, what? Stays together. But a family that worships together and serves together, they grow together. And it takes your family experience to a different level. And let me just read a couple of benefits of serving together as a family. First, it strengthens marriage. I like it when a couple sings up here, Quinones here. It strengthens the family together. Number two, you don't need a babysitter when you're doing ministry because you're spending time with your kids. You're including them. It's quality time with your kids. It shows children that serving matters. And some kids actually get converted through the process, through a missionary experience and so on. And it creates a family identity. We are a family that serves together. We are a family that serves together. It helps children develop compassion, understanding, friendships. It helps children see how blessed they are. Like when you feed the homeless, they're like, oh, we're blessed, you know. So Noah was active in ministry with his family. So let me wrap this up. When I became a father 4 years ago, it completely changes your life, right? It's not about who you are. It's about making sure your kid grows up and to know Jesus Christ. Amen? And I want to prepare my home for heaven. You know, things like the false missile attack, it kind of makes us think, like, you know what? I want to make sure my family, at least they have a chance. I want to do my part in heaven so they can make it to heaven. So Noah is a perfect blueprint, has a perfect blueprint for us. He walked with God first, then he invested in his family, and he served with his family. And my prayer is that all of us can think about that and how to prepare our homes for heaven. This is my last slide. I love this picture, and I use this a lot in my sermons. This is a picture of, I think it's Greece, and all the houses are all stacked up. It says in John 14:2, "In my Father's house has many rooms." And it'll be amazing when all our family is there together in heaven, isn't it? So my challenge for you today is, now is the time to prepare our homes for heaven. Even if you don't have any kids, you and your wife can do it together. But especially if you have kids, we need to prepare our homes for heaven. And I'll make that commitment. I don't have it all together, but we can try our best. Amen? Amen. So let's pray. Lord in heaven, thank you for our family. And thank you for who you are, for providing for our family. And we want to do our best to prepare our homes for heaven. We want to walk with you first. We want to invest in our family, everything that we have. And we want to serve together. So thank you, Lord, for guiding us and in this journey, in this short life that we have on earth. And hopefully we'll make it there where there's many rooms and we can spend the rest of eternity with our family. In Jesus' name.